edition of the Epic Roundtable, I sit down with Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College President Dr. Lynn and Director of Marketing and Public Relations Tiffany Scott, and we talk about branding and online learning.
Looking to take an epic step forward in your life or in your career? Come see us at Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College. With the Enhancing Programs for IT Certification or EPIC program, you take classes on your schedule with the Learn on Demand format. Don't take our word for it, hear it from one of our EPIC students.
The program helped me get the training I needed to better myself and my family. Do yourself a favor and take an epic leap toward your future.
Choose from several courses at the most affordable tuition in the state. What do you have to lose? Contact David C. or Joey today. Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College. Higher education begins here.
Hello everyone, I am David C. Dixon, and today I am joined by Dr. Lynn and Tiffany Scott. Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you all?
Oh, we're doing great.
Well, I thank you all for joining us today. We're going to start with Dr. Moore. Could you tell us just a little bit about your educational background?
Well, David, thanks for asking. Well, of course, I certainly believe in education. And let's see, to start with, I have a bachelor's degree in business management. I have a master's degree in business administration, and then I have a doctorate of philosophy in educational administration, and particularly the community college leadership program.
Okay, so Dr. Moore, were any of your degrees, did you earn any of those credentials or any classes online during your time as a student?
Well, you know, David, I'm so glad to be here today to speak with you and all of your listeners out there. I am a product of online education. I began my educational experience like many students do right out of high school in terms of going to college right out of high school. But guess what? Life hit. You know, and it happens to so many of us. So I had to put my education on the back burner for a period of years. And then later, actually in my mid-30s, I wanted to go back to school, but I had two boys I had to take care of as a single parent, and I also work full-time. So going and sitting in a traditional classroom just wasn't going to work for me. So I'm actually one of the very first online students, first generation online students in our country. Back in the early 1990s is when I was an online student, when I took my first online class.
Tiffany, could you tell us a little bit about your educational background?
Absolutely. Just like Dr. Moore, I started my college career right out of high school as a traditional student. I've done that right here at Southeast. So I'm a product of Southeast Kentucky Community Technical College. Very proud of that. For completing my degree at Southeast, I started a program with Lindsey Wilson College. It was actually a brand new program that they launched here at Cumberland, at the Cumberland campus. For 18 months, I spent every Friday night and all day Saturday working on my bachelor's degree in human services and counseling. So I was able to work during the week full time and go to school on the weekends to finish that bachelor's degree. And now I'm very proud to say that I have just completed my master's program through Morehead State University, a master's in communication, and that was a complete online program. So I am very familiar and very appreciative of the opportunities available through online education.
So Dr. Moore, we know that not everyone can attend college on a set schedule from 8 to 5 during Monday through Friday. So what are some ways that online learning here at Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College can help students who aren't able to attend on a set time frame?
Well, David, you're exactly right. And again, had it not been for the flexibility of taking classes online for me, I wouldn't be here today. I literally wouldn't be here today. Taking online classes, you have to be very disciplined yourself, so that way you can be successful in an online class, because it's up to you sitting at home, you know, in your pajamas in front of the computer and doing the work that you're required to do. So it gives the students the opportunity to actually go to class based on their schedule. You know, if it's after work, if it's after the kids are in the bed, and the lunches are made for the next day, and all the laundry and all the housekeeping's done, and that's really what I did, you know, years ago, is I would take care of everything, and then I did most of my school work online, at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's really, the research shows that a lot of online students are very, very active in the very wee hours of the morning. And that's really why, because they take care of all of their duties as parents and spouse and so forth, and all their family duties, and then they sit down when it's quiet and they hit the books. So it really does give students the opportunity to be flexible. And so many students like myself could not attend college without that flexibility. It's just absolutely impossible for them.
So Tiffany, you mentioned that you received your master's degree completely online. If you hadn't had the opportunity to do those classes online, do you think you would have ever pursued a master's degree?
Unfortunately, David, that answer would be no. Just like Dr. Moore, married, I have a young, small child at home, and just don't have the opportunity to head off and live on a college campus for a year and a half or 2 years to get that degree. And so without the opportunity for a complete online master's program, it just wasn't an option for me. And, you know, I too, after I would get my child in bed, get lunches packed, get everything ready, house picked up, then I would sit down and work on my homework. And to me, that was the only way that I could make it work, that I could make it happen and feel like I was still being the mom I needed to be and the employee I needed to be at work, you know, trying to get work done during work hours and home things done during home time, and still make time to get that degree done. But it does take someone very, very disciplined, and I'm not certain if online learning is for everyone. It does take somebody who is going to be extremely disciplined and dedicated, you know, and who has a goal in mind and the drive to see that to fruition.
So both of you all have had a combination of online learning as well as in-seat, kind of what we refer to as traditional learning. Which format do you prefer? Or do you think students prefer?
Well, you know, that is very much an individual call. Very much an individual call. And as I shared with you earlier, I completed my bachelor's degree online. My master's degree was very much like Tiffany's. It was an 18-month online master's degree program. One thing I wanted to share with you about that too is back when I was an online student years ago, it was still fairly new. You know, it wasn't as widely accepted as it is today. So many people, you know, in the educational industry, if you will, were skeptical, and they said, well, you're not going to get the best training, you're not going to get the best educational experience in the online environment. Being one of the very first ones, number one, it's very important that students are dedicated themselves to working and getting the most out of that online experience. Participating in the discussion boards, you know, getting to know some of your other students through the online environment. I mean, it's very easy to do, and it really enhances the total, it enriches the entire educational experience, you know, if students do that. And some of them are awesome at doing it, and it's amazing the relationships that you build and what you learn from other students in that online environment that you maybe wouldn't learn in a face-to-face environment. In a face-to-face environment, I could tell you I was pretty darn shy, you know, and I wasn't going to raise my hand. But in the online environment, boy, I didn't have to worry about being shy. I could participate and feel good about it. But the second thing, again, going back to the validity of the rigor of the class, you have to put into it. You know, if you don't put into it, you're not going to get everything that you can out of it. But after I finished my master's degree, then I went and I was accepted into the University of Texas, on the ground, in the classroom, very, very traditional doctorate program. There was no online. You know, when the director asked me to come in and participate in the program and I was accepted, he said, you know what, most of your educational experience has been online. I'm not sure you can cut it in the face-to-face, you know. But I finished, you know, in 2.5 years working full-time and with a 4.0, so I was very, very successful. So you ask, you know, it depends on the student, which one, and it depends on the student's situation as to if they're more successful in a face-to-face environment or an online environment. They're really very different. Now, the one thing that we do have are hybrid classes where you can be in the face-to-face class, but they also utilize some online classes in the hybrid class. That's really great for our section of the world, particularly in January when we have classes and we're up to here in snow and you can't get to the face-to-face. You can still participate and be in class online, so those work out really, really well. But it's really up to the student, and it's like Tiffany said so well just a few minutes ago. You know, if you're driven and you want that degree to better yourself and to better your family, you're going to make it happen. Whether it's face-to-face or it's online, if you're really dedicated to that success, you're going to make it happen.
You know, David, I consider myself a somewhat techie person. There's a lot of people who's a lot more techie than me. But I'll be very honest with you. Online learning scared me to death. I had never had an online class before until my master's program. And, you know, I talked to several other people who was like, oh, you can do this, it's going to be fine. But it made me very nervous because in my mind, I had only had in-seat classes. I was used to the experience of having a teacher in front of me, surrounded by, you know, my peers, and being able to have that one-on-one interaction. But I was pleasantly surprised with my very first instructor at Moorhead. I honestly can say that I had just as much, if not more, interaction with him than I have had with several instructors in the classroom because, you know, I've the most recent online graduate. Dr. Moore was one of the first, who going into online learning. So things have changed, and faculty has taken the initiative to really learn all these new great technologies that we have. It's not, I think a lot of people have misconceptions, just like I did, about what online learning really is. You know, you're not just stuck to a computer on your own trying to do this by yourself. I mean, there is so many great tools through Blackboard, which is the platform that we use here at Southeast. So many different things, from video chats to the instant messaging type things and the discussion boards. I mean, so much interaction that we had, and I agree with Dr. Moore 100%. So many more people are more apt to talk and share opinions because they're not sitting right beside that person in the classroom. So you really learn so much from the people who's in the classes with you, and you do form connections. I mean, we worked on group projects where we done phoning. You know, we would set up kind of mini conference calls, and our group would meet and talk as we typed on a research project. So I mean, it really was a pleasant surprise for me how much I thoroughly enjoyed online learning, because I was very skeptical in the beginning.
Right. David, see, let me follow up on something else Tiffany said. She's talking about how nowadays there's so much more technology. There's video, there's chat rooms, you know, and so forth. There's the discussion board, of course. And back when I started in the online environment, none of that existed. We didn't even have, when I started, the very first ones, we didn't have chat rooms. So we had to really email, and it was old email system. It's nothing like it is now. But anyway, I remember one class, I'll never ever forget it. We had 21 students in our class, and we had students in Hawaii, we had students all over the United States, we had a student in Japan. And we became very, very close because we were all in this new environment together. And of course, we were all on different time zones. So what we would do is we would set up a time, and there was one of our students, I remember, was in Colorado, and he worked at a big, big company. And he said, look, I can teleconference all you guys in at my office. And we're like, oh, wow, this is cool. I mean, there was no such thing as chat rooms and things like that, or, you know, back in those days. But anyway, he teleconferenced us all in, and all we could do is giggle and laugh at each other because we had we didn't have pictures of each other, and we didn't know how each other sounded with all of our accents and everything. We were spread out across the world, and some of them had to get up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to do this chat with us. But we did it, and we had so much fun, and we really supported each other. And we built relationships that I'm going to tell you we had long after we graduated. And so it's those, one thing that's been consistent along the years, you know, with the change in technology, but one consistent piece is you have the opportunity to develop relationships, and primarily professional relationships, with other students that are maybe in different states and work for different companies and so forth. So that's an added benefit to the online experience, because you're getting to know other people in other areas and other industries, where in the face-to-face classroom, you know, our classroom here, say on the Cumberland campus, you've primarily got students that are in this region that drive in and come to these classes, these face-to-face on-campus classes. So having the benefit of getting to know and building relationships with people, maybe even outside of Kentucky, you know, maybe in another state, and working for different companies is a huge, huge benefit. So that's one thing. I know you experienced that too, Tiffany. But boy, Tiffany's right. Times have really changed. But you know, again, if you want to make it work and get to know and benefit from an educational standpoint as well as a professional standpoint, and building those professional relationships, man, it's the environment to do it.
Absolutely.
So before we switch gears just a little bit, we've heard some of your online experiences, your educational background. What are some tips you all would like to offer to students or potential students out there that may be considering online or traditional learning?
That's a great question. And number one, you have to be disciplined. But, you know, some of us, we don't start out real disciplined. So one of my biggest tips that I share with everybody is go into that online environment, go into that Blackboard classroom or whatever it is, and print out. What I did is I had a binder for every class, and I print out the syllabus, I printed out the bio on the instructor, I printed out as much as I could possibly print out, and I put it in my binder, and I put tabs on there so that way I could flip over and see my syllabus or the schedule for what was going to happen in each class and so forth. That way I had everything at my fingertips. You know, it's still really hard to make those notes on the computer screen, so that way I used sticky notes and made notes on my paper copies that were in my binder. You know, David, I still today have most of those binders that I created back in my bachelor's degree program, and I still go back. They're great resources now, good information, but that's number one tip. Do that first before a class actually starts.
I think for me, David, the main thing is to be organized. You know, me and you have had this conversation several times, and David laughs at me because I'm a calendar person. With as much technology as we have, I still have to have my printed out planner, my big pad folio that's got my planner in there. And I think for me, going through that syllabus, day one, as soon as I got that syllabus, going through that syllabus with a fine-tooth comb, with a lot of online programs, I know in my experience, our instructor has lined out the entire class from day one, so people can go ahead and move ahead as they're comfortable in doing so, or as time allows. And so I kind of created me a schedule in my planner, and I would mark every assignment that was due, when it was due. And you know, just because you're doing this on your own, you know, at your own time, a lot of times I think it's very important to dedicate a certain amount of time every day, or so many hours per week, or, you know, kind of make yourself a schedule, because I think that helps drive that discipline that you have to have. But just being organized and keeping everything together, and then, like Dr. Moore said, holding on to that stuff, because there's been so many times that I have pulled research papers or some type of paper or sources that I used from one class, and I was able to draw on that for another class. So holding on to all that stuff, keeping it organized in those binders, and just getting that planner out and marking when assignments are due, because time happens quick, and you know, time will get away from you, and just not procrastinating. And that's a big one. Not waiting to the last minute to try to get everything done, not trying to get a whole semester done in the last week for finals.
And I can definitely agree with Tiffany when she says not to procrastinate. That seems to be one of my biggest issues. I'm also a product of online learning. Don't wait until, I had instructors that said everything's due at the end of the semester. You can't wait until the last week of the semester and try to get everything done. So I can't stress enough, don't procrastinate if you're an online student. So now we're going to switch gears just a little bit. As I mentioned, Tiffany is our Director of marketing and public relations, and I sometimes combined hers and Brandon Robinson's titles, which I did on my notes here, and Brandon corrected me when I was reading over this. But we know that it's very important to send out a consistent message and brand. Why is this important for students?
I think our students need to see Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College as one, no matter if it is an online class, no matter if it is in the SEAT class at our Middlesboro campus, our Whitesboro campus, or here at our Cumberland campus, or Harlan or Pineville. Everything has to be consistent. Our messaging has to be consistent, because we want our students, if for flyers, program brochures, or whatever we're working on, printed material. We want someone to be able to glance at that and immediately know that hey, that's Southeast. That's a program that they offer at Southeast. It is so vital that our messaging, our wording, everything that we do is consistent, because we don't want to send mixed messages to anyone. It's so important. We're launching a new program called the Julie persona, and it has really taken our content management to a new level. And that's one big thing that we're working on here at Southeast right now, is our content, whether it's content for the web, content for our Facebook site, content for any printed materials, is we want to make sure that everything we say speaks with one voice. Sometimes that's difficult because we have so many different people. We have so many different employees. We have around 250 employees, I think, between all 5 of our college campuses. And all those employees have their own voice. And, we each have friends and family members that I know personally that I talk to about the college. And David, you as well. We all have, an example I use all the time is there's people that I can reach maybe in our church or in our community that David C. has no connection to. And there's going to be people that he can reach that I have no connection to. So it's important, I feel like, as the director of marketing, it's my job to be able to provide the tools to our faculty and staff to have that message, to have that elevator speech, if you will, of what to say about our college. But as I was talking about the Julie persona, we are working right now to try to make our website and all of our printed materials have that one voice. Currently, on our college website, we rely heavily on program coordinators and faculty to write that information about their particular program, because they're their own expert in that area, and we want them to continue to provide that information, but we want it to be in such a way that it's easily understood by any potential student or a parent who's trying to learn what programs we offer. So it's just really vital to have, as a college, that one voice, that one message that we all speak with.
Dr. Moore, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I think Tiffany's really summed it up there, but it's really important that we provide a very comfortable learning environment. A comfortable learning environment for students who are in the face-to-face classroom or in the online classroom. And, it's really not hard to do. But making sure that students feel comfortable and that they're supported and that they'll have the resources that they need. Sometimes online students feel like they're detached from, the resources that are at the college. And I think our faculty, our instructors, do a really good job trying to engage those online students and say, look, I'm here if you need me. Here's how to get a hold of me. And that's another thing, talking about documenting and keeping all those syllabus and all that information from class to class moving forward. A lot of times you'll have an instructor that'll give you some really cool website resources, and you mark them down and I've learned through going through this process that I may get a resource in one class and may not need it and not use it, but 2 or 3 classes down the road, another 6 months or a year later, go, wow, what was that? And then you can thumb back and find it and use it. So, but that's really what, again, the piece that has been consistent through the years as online education has kind of evolved, is that, there are amazing instructors. We have amazing instructors here at the college, both face-to-face and online, and many of them that teach face-to-face also teach online. So, they work really hard to help students feel comfortable, and that's part of the speaking in a voice and the branding, like Tiffany was talking about, to let people know that this is a comfortable environment and it's one that anybody can come into and be very, very successful going through the educational process.
So one of the things Tiffany mentioned is we have 5 campuses of Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College. Sometimes being out in the community, it's perceived that there's 5 individual colleges, but there is one college with 5 campuses.
Right.
So it's important, I think, for people to remember that if a resource is available in Middlesboro and you're a Cumberland campus student and it's not available in Cumberland, you could access that resource in Middlesboro. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. Also, you have to remember that Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College with our 5 campuses in 5 different areas is part of a system, a statewide system. So we are one of 16 colleges. And there may be an online class, maybe up at Jefferson, that's taught online. Maybe we don't have it here, but we can still register our students into that online class. So the whole system works together. So you're talking about a huge capacity that a student would have. Not only can a student come to the Cumberland campus and sit in a class face-to-face and take an online class from an instructor down in Middlesboro, but they can take an online class from an instructor up in say up in Louisville, for instance, at Jefferson. So we have great capacity in our whole system, and we have amazing instructors all over the state. We have some adjunct instructors who actually don't live in the state, but they teach for us. And many of them are very, very successful in their businesses. Many of them own businesses. Many of them are executives in the companies that they work for. And it's just an awesome opportunity, that's available for students.
David, one of the reasons it is so important to have that consistent brand and consistent messaging is because we do have 5 campuses. 5 campuses in 5 different communities. And we have to remember, no matter what campus you're at, we're still Southeast. And that is why we want everything to have that consistent look, consistent feel, and consistent voice, because we want those communities to understand it's not a private college that's just sitting in their back door. It is part of Southeast. And we are inundated every day with so many images, through social media, through the internet, through marketing materials you receive in your mailbox. We see so many different marketing pieces every day from so many different companies. We want someone to be able to glance at something and immediately know that that's Southeast. That's the college that's in my back door. And just like you guys were saying, no matter if it's a Middlesboro campus student or a Whitesburg campus student or Harlan, they can share those resources because we have some tremendous resources on all 5 campuses. And if you never step foot on one of our campuses, if you're an online student, that doesn't mean that you're isolated to your home and your PJs. You can come onto our campus for student activities, for events going on. And, we work through Facebook. We work through email blasts out to those students to let them know, hey, we've got this awesome student activity going on campus today. Just because you're an online student doesn't mean you can attend those things. And I think a lot of times people fail to realize that as well, that they can come onto our campus for our spring fling that we have in the spring, get their hamburger and hot dog and listen to free pizza and giveaways and all those different things. So no matter if they're an online student, they're still a Southeast student, and they're going to get that great education whether they're seated in one of our classrooms or if they're seated at their home computer.
And I think that's very important for our students to remember that not only if you are an online student, you are still a Southeast student. And that's one thing I work entirely with mostly online students, that sometimes they fail to remember that they have access to. We have academic support centers, our libraries, we have our student activities and those things. It's very important for students to remember that they are a part of the campus community, whether they're online or in seat. So that's going to kind of finish us up for today. I'm going to open it up for last comments from Dr. Moore and Tiffany.
Okay, great. Thank you, David C. This has been a lot of fun today. One more thing when you were finishing up. Again, so many online students work at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning when most all the rest of us are asleep. A lot of times, and I know I experienced this as an online student working at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would run into a concept or math problem or something I needed some help. So I know that we have resources that are 24/7.
Yes.
So students should not feel like, oh my goodness, if when it's just crickets outside and me working hard in the online class, I'm not by myself. I have 24/7 support and resources, so if I have a question at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can get some help even then.
Yes.
So that's a really cool thing as well. But David C., I just appreciate this opportunity. Again, if it wasn't for online education and the convenience, that it afforded me, I couldn't have, taken care of kids, worked full time, and gone to school at the same time. Also, I have to put this plug in. I know that there may be some students out there who may be, I don't know, University of Kentucky students, and they want to take an additional online class. They can come to us, and they can be UK students and take an online class with us at the very same time. If they need to and would like to, they can certainly do that as well. So we invite everybody to come be part of our college. It's awesome. David C., I'm so proud of the work that he's done here and that he continues to do. Again, we have 5 campuses. Tiffany runs all over all 5. She is our PR director for all 5, so you never know when you'll see her or when you'll hear from her. So we all wear many hats, and Tiffany runs ragged taking care of everybody and getting the word out. So, but thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, my last comment, David, is to anybody out there who's remotely considering taking an online class, sign up for one. Give it a try. You never know until you do it. You're never too old. You are never too busy to better yourself. There's so many opportunities. And David, through your program, with the EPIC online courses, they don't have to necessarily wait till January to start taking a class. And so there's so much flexibility out there. So, just give it a try. Don't be scared like I was. And, I waited a little bit longer than what I had hoped to complete my master's. But you will never regret it. You'll never regret bettering yourself and furthering your education. And like Dr. Moore said, it doesn't matter if you're a UK student. Right. We offer classes, through David's program during the winter breaks. They can sign up for different things, whether it's summer break that they're on. So there's so many opportunities to pick up a couple extra classes.
Well, Dr. Moore,
thank you so much.
Tiffany,
David,
I'd like to thank you all for joining me today on the EPIC Roundtable. That is it for today's edition of the EPIC Roundtable. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to join us next time. For Southeast TV, I'm David C. Dixon.